Okay, let's pick up where we left off. So I just went over the longest muscle in the body and I showed you its function using APR. Let's talk about its actions, which are various, and I already touched on these. And the actions of the sartorius include flexion of the thigh, lateral rotation, abduction of the thigh, and flexion of the leg. So let's now move on to the hamstring group, which flexes the leg at the knee. Here we're focused on two main muscles, the semitendinosus and the semimembranosus. Let me show you their action. Of flexion. Okay, here we are. Hopefully you can see this. Here is an APR view of the hamstring muscles. Let's get a view of flexion of the leg at the knee. This is the anterior side of the body where you can see the hand, and the posterior side where the leg is now extended. As you can see, flexion is the action of bending or causing or being in a condition of being bent. And hopefully that really brings it home to you. Okay. And I will stop sharing. Let's move on now to muscles that move the foot. There are two muscles which dorsiflex the foot and four that plantar flex the foot. So what does it mean to dorsiflex the foot? This means to bend the foot toward its dorsal surface. Plantar flexion is when the top of your foot points away from the leg. Here is a summary table of all of the muscles that you're responsible for knowing that move the foot. And you also must know their origins, insertions, and actions, which I just touched upon. So there are two muscles that are responsible for dorsiflexion, and you can see them here. These are the tibialis anterior and the extensor digitorum longus. And here we have four muscles which are responsible for plantar flexion, which you are responsible to know. Let's go to APR and get an idea of the difference between dorsiflexion and plantar flexion. So if you go to the muscular system and click on leg and foot, you will be able to find an example of plantar flexion. Let me show that to you now. So as I mentioned, plantar flexion is when the top of the foot points away from the leg. So let's look at this laterally. There is an example of the foot moving away from the leg. And finally, we move to muscles of the pelvic floor, levator ani and coccygeus. So the origin of the levator ani is the pubis and Ezekiel spine, and the insertion is the coccyx. And what is the function of this muscle? It is to tense the floor of the pelvis. And this is actually similar between the two muscles. The coccygeus also is responsible for tensing and supporting the floor of the pelvis. So you're responsible to know the names of the muscles, their origins, their actions, and their insertions. So let's take a look at these. So here we have the diaphragm, the pelvic diaphragm, that is. And here we can see that in a purple highlight. Now, of this pelvic diaphragm, it can be split into two parts. As we mentioned, the two muscles that you're responsible to know, the levator ani and the coccygeus, here in the posterior region, and the levator ani in the anterior region. And that concludes the summary of muscles part 3. Thank you.